Okay, everyone. Today we're going to talk about regulations. Mostly, this one is just on the federal acts. There are other federal acts that you can talk about. These are the 5 that are going to take the most in your test. But keep in mind, there are also acts from the federal government that are not directly intended for the securities market, like the telecommunication. So let's take a look at the first one, the Securities Act of 1933. After that, it was the Securities Exchange Act of 34, the Maloney Act of 38, Investment Company Act of 1940, and the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. What did, let's do these one at a time and just write down some things on what distinguishes these for your exam. So this is also known as the Paper Act and the Prospectus Act. Can't even spell it this morning. It regulates the primary market. Okay, the primary market. New issues. Okay? It regulates new issues. Whether it's an IPO, initial public offering, or a new security from an old style of security. You could have a company issuing bonds or stock. You can have a government issuing bonds, and then later on they issue the same type. It's still going to be a new issue. It's new to the public. It's regulated under the 33. Okay? Now, I said government. Let's talk about that. Is the government subject to the 1934 Act? Yes. But only on the fraud statutes. Only on the fraud statutes. Okay? So, primary market, Prospectus Act, the Paper Act. This is giving the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, and FINRA, and all the other, regulatory boards and bodies, a roadmap on how to regulate these companies and these organizations. So, how can you, remember some of these? It's very simple. In my mind, paperwork always comes before the people in the government. I don't care how nice they are. I don't care how they claim they help the people. Paper is always coming first. Okay? So, and that'll be obvious on the next act that we talk. So the 33 Act, this came out of the 1929 market crash, the true and only market crash that we had in the marketplace in the United States. Anything else like 2000, 2008, 1987, it's an adjustment. Something happens in the economy to kick the markets, to wake them up and to reprice them differently. That's what happened. They recovered. And yes, you could say that in 1929 they recovered, but not to the same degree that they were regulated. That's just it. They weren't. They weren't regulated in 29. This came out, it took them 4 years. Tells you how slow. And if you think I'm wrong about the Paper Act discussion, 1933 is when the first federal act came. 1929 is when the market crashed. Okay. So, they were slow and clumsy back then too. Okay, so that's the first act that came into being. The next one is the Securities Exchange Act. Remember? Securities Exchange Act. So what does that tell you? First of all, it came second. It was in 1934. It is the People Act. Okay, the People Act. it developed the SEC. It created this SEC. And it says, okay, you're in charge of regulating this and the 1933 Act. Secondary market. Okay? And this should give a little trading and operations, lesson to you also. The Securities Exchange Act regulates the secondary market. That's where trades are occurring between investors. In the first one, the Securities Act of 33, what happened? The money was coming from investors, but it was going to companies and governments. It's capital raising. It's the capital market also in 1933. So put that down also in your mind. The capital market. It's where they raise capital. They don't raise capital. Transactions that happen in the secondary market, they go to the seller. That's a regular investor. Okay. Exchanges. It does the exchanges, but it also does NASDAQ. Over the counter. Okay. What is an exchange? You read that in your books. You should know that an exchange is a physical place to trading securities, whereas NASDAQ and over the counter is not a physical location where they can trade. Yeah, they have a headquarters, okay? They have an office, but you can't go there and trade securities like you see on TV. Buy, buy, sell, sell. It's done online in a network. So the Exchange Act regulates the exchanges, the physical exchanges, and the networks. Okay. Now, the next one that came along was the Maloney Act. In the Maloney Act, that came out in 1938. That's what you need to know. It developed SROs, self-regulatory organizations, like NASD, MSRB. New York Stock Exchange, okay, is also an SRO, self-regulatory organization. FINRA, right now, is part of the old, is what used to be NASD, National Association of Securities Dealers. But the federal government wanted to expand their grip on the markets and on the financial community and on the states. Hello. So what they did was they developed FINRA. And FINRA is financial industry. So they take pride on stealing and over-regulating the insurance industry too, any chance they can, and any time a state is going to let them do that. Usually the states will take it to the court and say, get out of our territory. Okay? But they still have some control there, the feds. Okay? Before, they couldn't regulate the insurance industry any more than all the regular, federal acts. Okay? But now they can throw it in through FINRA. So that's SROs and Maloney Act. Next we have the Investment Company Act. And that is in 1940. Now, investment companies, so it regulates mutual funds. Exchange traded funds. What are we talking about? Closed end. So, when you look at a mutual fund, take a look at the company itself, the mutual fund company. And let's say we're talking about T. Rowe Price. I pick on them because I used to work for them, and I think they're an excellent company for mutual funds. They're no-load mutual funds. Now, the Investment Company Act regulates both no-load and loaded funds. Okay? If it's an investment company, yeah. How do we get investment company as being a mutual fund? Because the mutual funds, they have maybe 105, maybe more now, mutual funds. A 105 different companies inside T. Rowe Price. Inside T. Rowe Price. So the mutual fund itself is set up as a separate entity. Sometimes a trust, sometimes a company. But either way, it's under the Investment Company Act of 1940. In most cases, their funds, I believe, are held within a trust. So they regulate the mutual fund companies. They can also regulate the individuals who are working for them. Okay, now let's take a look at the Investment Advisor Act of 1940. What is the investment advisor? This is what it came out to be. For a long time, they didn't know what an investment advisor was. There was such a fine line. Somebody who gives advice. Oh, a broker-dealer does that. Or what's their primary goal? Giving advice. Oh, that's an investment advisor. But that's not a broker-dealer. So let's take a look at broker-dealer. And the investment advisor. Fee-based. Plain and simple. Investment advisors are fee-based for giving advice. Broker-dealers. Transactions. That's it. That's the main difference. The broker-dealer can act as a broker, which means commission. Let's do that. Commission. It places a trade on the marketplace, into one of the markets, into one of the exchanges, into NASDAQ, to get the security or to sell the security out into the market. That's working as a broker. As a dealer, they own the stock, the bond, and they are going to sell to the client directly or buy directly from them and put it in their vault. That is a dealer trade, and they get a markup or a markdown. Okay? This is also known as agency, and the dealer is known as principal trade. Okay? Principal trade. But fee-based, wrap accounts. Okay? So if a broker-dealer, if a broker inside, a registered representative inside a broker-dealer can do wrap accounts, guess what? They're going to register under the 40 Act. They are an investment advisor. They can be both. They can do transactions, they can do accounts as wrap accounts or transactions. Now, how is a broker-dealer, an agent there, not given advice? They are. They are given advice, but their primary duty is to effect transactions in the marketplace. That's it. Many investment advisors don't even do the transactions. They have a broker-dealer that they deal with to flush out the trading. They're the advisor listed on the account. It's not even their company. The investment advisor company, yeah, but the trading company is a different broker-dealer, maybe. And it all depends on how the company is structured. So, effecting transactions is the primary duty of a broker-dealer. Fee-based, giving advice is the primary for an investment advisor, and an investment advisor then would have to register under the Investment Advisor Act of 1940. And if these people are going to issue wrap accounts to their people and give advice in that sense, set themselves up as an advisor, yeah, then they do have to go there. Now, a lot of times a wrap account doesn't mean it's an investment advisor exclusive. You could have a broker-dealer account with some wrap accounts, and they'll say, you know, you just get unlimited trading. And you get all these other services. That's a wrap account. But typically, if you have a fee-based program, you're in a wrap account, you're being charged per assets under management as opposed to the individual transactions. Okay? Well, guess what? That's regulations on the federal side in a very small discussion. There's a lot of other regulations and procedures and ideas that you have to know in that chapter. It's a big chapter. But I'm not here to bore you with all the facts on that. Just wanted to get you something that you can look and review on a regular basis on the video if you wanted. Good luck on the test.